microphone yet, so just point it toward me. All right. Bring your notebooks Friday, and then we'll do that. We'll compile the data for everybody, and then I'll tell you like how we're going to do our edit, because I didn't really give you a thing for that. Like we're looking at these behaviors versus that, or if it was a female versus whatever, right? So you don't really have that. But I intended that just so we could focus on behaviors and collecting them. A lot of behaviors are similar to elk in a certain way. So we want to just make sure that we're comfortable with all that. And I mean, I feel like you guys picked it up. You're comfortable with it. Do you feel like you're pretty okay noticing that and putting them out? I wish we would have saw more aggression fighting. The fighting that we did see was just kind of like, they just looked like they were lazy a little bit. They were definitely fighting, but they looked like they were just like, yeah, just like, ah, yeah, yeah. But you know, they're probably tired after that one. Did you feel like it went okay otherwise? Just overall? Yeah. Us getting up and out of camp by, when did we get out of camp? That's pretty good. That's quick. A question I have for next time. How early, like, is that good for you? Or would you be willing to get up even earlier if it meant us going to slough back to the bull den and seeing the pups actively play around for hours? I'm not gonna. We would. Yeah, if we're gonna do that, then we would get back to camp at 7:30. Right, and you'd have to. It would still be daylight. Dusk when we're getting back. Right? There'd still be something like we get back, and then we would also, as a result, eat Yellowstone Monday at like 1:30. So mull that over. Okay? You don't have to decide right this moment. That's not necessary. But mull it over, see what you think. Also,
I'm curiosity. I want to know how many people pass 2 schools in the figuring it.
Yeah, I'd be just 2, 3 of you. Does anybody in here have a favorite one that is a mountain? What's yours? Manatee. That's you're the only person I've ever had tell me. All right. Horse. Like a particular breed or just Clydesdale. I've seen some massive like I think some of them I've seen weigh like 2,400 pounds. They're giant. Some bison. Oh my god. Yeah. It's like, oh my god. This thing could pull a jet. This was still. Maybe a tank. Thing is a tank itself. Anybody else? Was your favorite just like a bird of some kind? You don't have a favorite animal?
I like sloths.
2 or 3 good. Sorry. What's the male deer called?
No. Yay! I'm sorry. It's different. It's not elk.
No.
You got that.
It's not an elk.
It's a bug. It's a bug. Yeah, it's a bug.
What is this bug? Oh, yeah, there you go. All right. We're getting somewhere. Hell yeah. Let's go.
I'm still getting I thought that bear was a badger.
That's all right. Evelina thought that rabbit was a quail. She turned around, she's like, a quail. And I was like, Gardner, September, a quail. Like, that's a rabbit. Yeah. But I was just like, at least you got the kingdom, right? Still animal. Yeah. Okay. So mull that over, the timing stuff, and know that for the next field trip, we'll still do like restroom breaks and all that like we did, but we're not gonna hang around nearly as long in town and stuff. We're gonna like it should be prime elk running behavior. So it will be common for us to watch elk for 3 hours. Okay. So like it will be like I did, saying something for the first 15, 20 minutes and then just watch them for a long time. Okay. In that time, be aware that, bring snacks, bring some, I don't know, bring PPJ, bring a bag of chips or something. There's no reason why you can't just hang out and watch them while you're there. Bring a chair, a little chair with a scope, perfect. Right, whatever you need, that'll work great. I'm gonna bring just like 2 pounds of roast beef or something. I don't know. Yeah. This is the first field trip, and I was worried about having everything ready for you guys, and I just ignored my own things as a result. Yeah. Yeah, that was my bad. I also won't jump off a rock. Yeah, it's fine. I didn't break the safe, but it's good because that thing was probably 80 years old or more. Crystal, I heard we got a text from you.
Yeah, I was sick and I didn't know if I was going to make it on time, or I just like put it out.
Okay. I just assumed you overslept. Oh my God.
I really didn't want to go, but I decided to.
Okay. On that note, I hope I made it clear before we went on our first trip. I know I said it's expected to come, yes, because it's a mammalogy trip. It's like an upper level bio class. You do the things that upper level bio classes do. However, if you have to work or things like that, you need food to eat and a place to sleep at home. Right? These things take priority. Right? I'm not expecting you to like not go to work or not do things if you need money for that. You're college students. I understand. Right? These things exist, so I'm not gonna feel any which way. It's not gonna affect your grade if you don't go. You'll lose out on the experience, of course, and the camaraderie and all that goes with being on a field trip. Seeing me eat shit as I jumped on a rock and that kind of stuff. But take care of yourself and your life situation first. You can't do any of this if you aren't comfortable at home. So I hope you're hearing me when I say make sure you have a place to sleep, food to eat. Make sure all of those are met first. Okay. Don't feel like you have to neglect that. All right. Yes, I'll give you an assignment set, but that's an assignment's just it's a little bit longer than what people that are going are doing, but this could be worth the same amount of points. All that together. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure you're aware. Double check. I want people to go any which way. All right. Then moving on. What you will do for semester project. We talked about it a little bit. Has anyone thought of something that they might want to do for a semester project at all so far? Yeah, this is the audible. Me explaining the semester project in more detail for you as we've gotten a little bit more comfortable making talking to each other and all this stuff. All right, so semester project will be as follows. One, you'll have a 10-minute presentation. There'll be a student symposium at the end, and you'll get up and if you have like major problems talking in front of people, which happens. I was told that actually there was someone in this same department that it just went by the wayside and he was getting ready for his PhD dissertation talk, his defense talk, and it was like, couldn't do it. You just couldn't talk in front of people. But he knew exactly what you said. He just like started stumbling. He's like, do plants have mitochondria? And he like didn't know. So if you learn that in bio too, freshman year, like this guy knows, like, right? He just like everything's gone.
How do you get past the master's?
You don't have to have a master's to do these. You can go right into a PhD. Typically, instead of 4 years, then you spend 7 because you have to you have to end at the same level, right? So it takes longer, but you can still do it. It's actually really common. But it's easier to do a PhD or a master's. Certain things.
If you're doing a PhD and you realize like 3 years in that it's kind of ready to go,
That's common.
okay.
Yeah, there are people that aren't necessarily dropping out, like for whatever reason, a project doesn't work or it's not salvageable, something, a life happens, and they exit out with a master's instead. Yeah. One of the people in the department, Erica Stewart, she's getting her PhD. You know, Erica, really nice. Her husband's also a good writer. But it wasn't until 2 years in that they were like, she was doing insect work and on plants, and they're using pesticide, and it was scheduled to be a certain pesticide, and the city just changed it without telling anybody to something completely different. And she was taking 2 years of data and didn't know it was something else entirely. Did you? Oh, yeah. And it's just like, whoa, real bad, real bad. Yeah, go through a period of mourning for a little bit. Yeah, it's not really down the drain, but it kind of feels like it for the time. It's a hole. Yeah, it's bad. But that kind of stuff happens. This is just what happens. Anyways, for the project, what you're going to do is talk in front of people. Okay. By the end of this course, probably you're comfortable with everybody or mostly everybody. You'll be a little bit nervous just talking in front of people because that's how people get when they talk in front of people, especially for the first time. Unless you're an extreme extrovert. Is anyone an extreme extrovert? No one in your strike is an extreme extrovert. Those people tend to be fine. I'm not even close. I'm an extreme introvert, but here I am. Talk in front of people. It'll be about 10 minutes. Then, on top of that, and what will help you with that talk is you'll write a paper. Okay? At least 5 pages, but it could be longer, but not over 10. If you're getting over 10, you're just rambling. Right? This will be a longer paper that's structured like a journal article. Right? So these first 2 assignments for bison and milk is like mini journal articles where they still have an intro, methods, results, discussion, that kind of thing. Right? For this paper, you're going to have all those, but instead of it just being 2 or 3 sentences per section, you're going to try to flesh it out. Right? It's going to be like a research paper, and then you'll also write an abstract. Okay. To write an abstract for it, it's going to be about, let's say, 250 words. We'll go with 250. 250 gives you an entire page. If you can't sum it up in an entire page, we're not cutting enough. I had to sum up my entire thesis in 150 words. 3.5 years of work in 150 words. That is hard. That's challenge. During this, while you're writing it, you're going to need a literature cited section, right? Review, whatever you want to call it. Do any of you know what an annotated bibliography is? All right. You don't necessarily have to have an annotated bibliography. That's not what I'm asking you to do. You just need an APA cited literature cited section. However, if you know what an annotated bibliography is, I would suggest to you to just put like one item on it per week or something. By the time you're like really writing this, you'll have multiple sources of what that is. Who doesn't know what an annotated bibliography is? Right? Yeah, of course. So what I would suggest is after you decide what it is you want to do, you start looking up information on that, right? I mean, you just, first of all, you go to Wikipedia, yourself like Wikipedia is familiar with whatever this thing could be, right? And can you cite Wikipedia? No. Can you go there to get general information? Yes, of course, it's very good for that. You know, when it first came about, it was not good for general information. Now it's very good. Right? I go into a Wikipedia article, change something, and then look back 20 minutes later and see if it's still there. It'll already be gone. They're on top of it. But you can also go to Wikipedia and there will be citations on that page, right? And often for science things, it'll be cited like the actual Nature article or the Science article or something. You can just go to that. You can cite that, of course, because that's the actual paper, right? So that's an easy way to get citations. The annotated bibliography that is, you find a paper, a journal paper that is you like to use. Okay? This is interesting to you, it's relevant to what you do. What you're going to do then is after you read the abstract, you skim this paper. You don't need to read it in detail. You read the abstract, you skim the paper for the main ideas. Then you're going to write that in 2 or 3 sentences. You're going to provide the citation of that paper, and then write 2 or 3 sentences that is the synopsis of that paper. And you do that for every reference you find. That way, when you go to write, like, what was that paper that I was thinking of that was this thing, or what was that reference? Like, you tend to have them and then like forget the exact details of what it was because it was 3 weeks ago or whatever. This helps you remember what that is. So I would suggest using one. You don't have to, but a little bit of work, right? 2 or 3 sentences after you skim it will save you probably a couple of hours later. A minimum amount, 5 is good. Try to use 5. And one of those can be a textbook of some kind. You wouldn't do that in an actual paper, but that's fine. It's got a lot of good information in it. There's no reason that I'm going to have to, or have you like go to a textbook and like try to backtrack all the way to the original paper that found it out. We don't need to be wasting your time like that. That's frankly disrespectful. People's time. Okay. 4 project ideas. I remember being exactly where you are now and having a very hard time thinking of what it is I could do that would fit in the span of 2 to 3 months. Like, what question could I possibly ask, or what could I do that's interesting to me that I actually fits in that time to do the work? Is that anybody here? Right? Kind of, maybe, yeah. It's a hard thing to try to think about. As you get more and more into science, it becomes easier. And then you can just start thinking about 200 things you can do without any problem at all. But at first, it's hard. It is hard. Here are some things you can do. You could go watch, we're going to do this field trip. You could watch deer breeding behavior. Try to, you could possibly find as many harems as possible and try to estimate the size of the male and then count how many females he has around it and how many he can keep corralled and compare like roughly estimated male size versus harem size and see if they're like linearly correlated. That, right? That's one thing you do. You could compare how like communication behavior or alarm sound. You know when I say like alarm, there's communication. Like you've been walking through forest and like it's quiet, and you get to a certain area, and then like birds or squirrels or whatever start like telling everything around if you're there. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah.
We observed that the other day. Stopped around the zoo, it's an accident walk. One of our elk got startled and barked at us. I didn't know elk.
Yes. Like an actual like.
It sounds like a dog bark.
Okay. I didn't know that either. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you could do that kind of thing and compare fox squirrels to red squirrels. You know what a fox squirrel is? Okay. You know what a red squirrel is? Where are red squirrels out around here? Not Gibbs, Jack, Cherry Springs City. Out in the out there. They're a little bit harder to find. They're not nearly as big, right? And their tail is smaller. Fox squirrels, and any squirrel you see in town at all is fox squirrel, almost for sure. Right? Their tail is as big or bigger. Right? Those are invasive. They're from the east coast. Down over here, they out red squirrels because they're bigger and more aggressive. What else could you do? You could it's not too hard as if science is too hard. It's too hard as it no one wants to. It would be like doing a population distribution thing, trying to measure where the elk around Southside are. You could do something like that. It's not inherently hard, but it would require you to drive and walk a really long way. No one wants to do that. How many mountains do you walk up? If the answer is a lot, then maybe. Or if the answer is yes, an endless amount, then that might work for you, right? It depends. You could, this was one that Casey tried to do in animal behavior and mammalogy, and it was a spectacular fail every time. But if you could get it to work, it is what can only be referred to as a very sexy project. And that is gather some cat food, like domestic cat food, or if you have access to it, cougar food. And then walk out into Meat Creek area, like up into the hills, like along Slate Mountain and stuff, and then set up a game trail and see if you can get any cougars and mountain lion coming by, and then document behavior from trail cams of them. There's a lot of behavioral information and population distribution studies that are done in trail cams. They're very informative, very good. And one of the, I can help you set up trail cams and make sure they work. Some of the things you do is like you set them up, make sure they're pointed at the trailer or the game trail, and then you like walk by, and then you get on all fours and like roll by. Then you have pictures of you rolling by the forest, which is funny, but you're just making sure that it works appropriately for tracking everything down, right? I believe we have some, not many, but I think I have a trail that we have at my house that I'm not using. So if someone wanted to do that, I could try to find it, and then I know it works. We have to get that report. But you got to find a spot that is likely to habitat. I mean, that could work for you. You could do something with marmots. Marmots be everywhere around here.
So you said your fiance worked on with other people for the porcupine display. We do the project in like groups or duos or?
So it depends. They did that because they had the whole porcupine animal. And so the only team effort they did was dissecting it out and taking the pelts away from the rest of the body, which takes forever to get around the finger pads and everything to make sure they're not damaged. Then she took the pelt, the other person took the rest of the body, got rid of the organs, everything, and cleaned the bones, and then did that herself, right? So this was assembled by herself. The entire porcupine was tanned, dried, and mounted by Casey, by herself. Right. So if you want to do something like that, definitely you can do that. If you find, I don't know, a porcupine or a badger or something, and you want to do something like that, that's fine. A very classic mammalogy project would be trapping a bunch of mice, and then or trapping, in mice traps, or like pitfall traps or something. What a pitfall trap is. Trapping in pitfall traps, they're mice, so no one cares. And deer mice are basic anyways, so again, no one cares. And then making specimens out of them, kind of thing. That's a very traditional, old school mammalogy side project, but it's still perfectly valid. It teaches you more about that particular order, that group. Rodentia is a massive group, and it kind of gets thrown by the wayside a lot of the times, but it's had massive ramifications on humanity. Right? I mean, you all know what the Black Death was, yeah? Massive implication on humanity. It wasn't actually the rats that caused it, right? It was what? The fleas that were on the rats carried the bubonic plague, which is just a bacteria, right? Which, like 2 years ago, there was like a case of it in Arkansas or something. It was somewhere in the US. It's like, oh, this person got the Black Death. In which case now you just give it amoxicillin, fine. But okay, last ideas. What else could you do? All right, let me back up. The one thing I don't want you to do is use captive animals or pets to do something. That feels like cheating. That,
Sorry, I
do have any tools in my backpack. I don't use that.
I have many questions. How are they tamed?
The first ones were ones that we found and then rehabilitated them like our backyard. But then those two ran off, and 2 wild ones started coming up the door.
Did you feed them?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, now they're not going anywhere. Yeah.
How does the cougar proof tie back into what you're saying about the
Oh, so you set up cougar poop like in a. Yes, you could grab captive cougar. Domestic house cats are interesting though, because this is like, are they still attracted to a cat, even if, right? Because we already know they're attracted to cougar. Of course they are. It's another cougar. But a domestic cat is interesting because it's like, it's not a cougar, but like still a cat. And how much like similar is it? And so they like try to investigate. That's the idea. So you just like set it up somewhere, like on the ground somewhere, or like it could be like on a stump or I don't know, whatever's available. You'd make a mock ship table or something. And then you take the game trail and point it towards that. And then you would record behaviors associated with the cougar, investigating like an intruder in its territory, this kind of thing. And then for the project, tell us like the natural history of the cougar, behaviors, territory defense, behaviors of cougars, something like that. And this would be like supplementing your ideas of what it is you say. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Would you say that hasn't worked for you? Yeah.
She's tried it twice, never gotten to work.
Okay. So what'd you do, like, what'd you do in the end? It didn't work out. Was that run it anyway?
No, in animal behavior, she had an entirely different project that she did, and she drove at birds on the freeway. Yeah. Yeah, she drove at the birds on the freeway. And then someone else was in the passenger seat. They like time fly away. It was like flight distance thing. And then in mammalogy, 4 weeks later, there's a frozen porcupine. You want to do that? Dissect it instead. And so, I did distance behavior when I was in mammalogy. I did distance behavior of deer herds. Found like the matriarch, so to say, the female that was in charge of that era, essentially the eldest one, and then recorded behaviors of, I'm so far away they don't really notice me or they don't care. I get this close, she notices and starts like watching me, but is allowing. Then I get this close and she like it starts to get a little bit on edge. I get this close and then like it's a problem. I get even closer than that kind of thing. Right. So it was like gauging me.
I have a lot of deer for that. I know this is different from what I encountered. The only thing like bear area or it's a wild and sagebrush and stuff. Versus what I encountered.
Yeah. So
it's super freaking close
in your yard, in an area that they associate with us, they already like are aware. They're in their mind, they're like presence that we're here. And so it's like allowed a certain way. But then if you're out in the forest, it's like 10 times farther. They're like, I don't know about that. And so you could do a project like that. You could try to do some kind of project where you're trying to identify bobcat area. There are bobcats around here, definitely. Like I've seen them walk around the creek, but only one time. You could do something for squirrels. Like one interesting thing you do is like if you do have squirrels in your backyard that are wild or around, right? You could see if certain squirrels have an ability to learn better than others by devising progressively more complex ways for them to acquire food. What, like, if you just put food out in the wild or out in the open, and then you put up like some random feeder, you can like figure out how to do that there, and then you put like a bird feeder up, which they would normally eat out of. You put it on a pole with a slinky on it, and see if they can figure out how to get it. But like they run up it and they hit the slinky and they just fall down, which is hilarious. But like, can they figure that out? Because some of them can.
And then you design a whole rock rubber obstacle.
You know who I'm talking? Yeah. So you could do things like that and then present on like learning behavior. And like any of these things is fine. It's wide open for running the gamut of as long as it's a mammal and you're measuring learning, mating behavior, general behavior, anything like this is fine. Or if you want to do old school mammalogy projects where you dissect something out, have a skeleton, the bones articulated, or a pelt, that's also fine. Okay. Like how to dissect it? A little bit. I'll help you dissect stuff. And like in that, not
Oh, wait,
no, not during but I can help you with dissection techniques and how to do it and such. Once you learn how to use a scalpel, it's not bad. Scalpel in very sharp scissors.
So there has to be like a in person as an observation portion of the presentation. It can't be like research on the animal thing.
Let's see. How would you even do that though? What about like gotta be one out there to watch. There might be. See if you can find something like that. You know how there's like always camps, like eco camps and stuff like that. Maybe there's something like that. Yeah.
You could like.
Well, they have one in wild. Yeah. If something like that exists in the wild, watch that. Probably allowable. I just don't know.
I know there's sites that have like the trash bans on certain
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do something like that, or if you're interested in doing something like that, where there's not like actual observations you can make, then you're gonna have to be more detailed in your natural history of that animal. It's essentially a requirement at that point because other people are doing parametric statistical tests. I mean, it's just simple t-test or something, or a simple ANOVA that I'll help you with, of course, if you need. But they're going to be doing that. You wouldn't have that kind of thing. So the onus is then on you to be very thorough in that aspect, which I believe is only fair. If you're not doing that, then you have to come in somewhere else to make an equal amount of effort. I'm not going to have people do observations and do actual stats and then feel shortchanged because someone didn't do that. Okay. Questions, more questions. This is like the only time I'm going to spend talking about it for class time. You can always ask me stuff, but it's the only class time I'm going to dedicate to it until symposiums in December. I might, maybe. In our basement, there's the dead freezer, so maybe. There, I think she used all the mice, but
I just have various freezer animals. I do this.
Cool.
yeah, Casey ran the southeastern Idaho raptor rehab. That was her. She ran it. She made the 416. So we just have like dead ravens in our freezer downstairs, and like there's a bunch of dead mice down there at one point. I don't know what's in there now, but it's definitely dead. Also, I can check, but if something is in there that's dead, it was not fixed at all. It's just straight up frozen. So you're gonna have a bad time to dissect it. And by having a bad time, after about 2 hours, when it's no longer frozen, you're gonna want to be next to a fan. Just put some Vicks on nose. I don't know, but it's gonna be a bad time. Yeah. When they were dissecting that pork, they did it right here. They did it right there, and it just perfumed the entire floor for like a week. Just rancid, rotting porcupine.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Okay. Good. If you need the assignment because you missed the field trip, come to me. I'll send it to you. Otherwise, we'll see you Friday. Hopefully, this was helpful to like get ideas rolling forward to this. What I want to do is no two people can do the exact same projects. Right? I mean, if there's like offshoots, then of course that's how science works. Don't do the exact same thing. So when you think of something that you want to tell me, that way you can claim your territory. What's that? Okay. Right, okay. All right, Julio's got interest in the trail. Friday, bring your your notebooks. Your notes. Bring notes. Have a good one.
Well, like, just get